talking Illinois high school football.
If your goals are as high as you talk about, tonight's the night you go out and just take one more step.
It's a view from the West.
And it starts right now!
Welcome to View from the West podcast, the podcast covering Illinois high school football on the western side of the state. I'm your host, Greg Armstrong, joined once again, as always, by Mitch Stormer. Mitch, we're talking high school football on a Friday. We're talking on a Tuesday. We're talking on Thursdays, on Saturdays. I don't care what day of the week it is. This is awesome, man. I love jumping in and talking some high school football. We got some great stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, it's been a fun last couple of weeks here in the postseason, and now that we're down to the state championship in 8-man and semifinals, and looking ahead to hard to say next week for the state championships. Yeah, it's been a ton of fun, and we have a lot of great games here still this weekend. And again, looking ahead one more week.
Yeah, you talked about some great games to talk about. The 8-man state championship game. Some classic, some all-time great matchups in the semifinals for some of our teams that are still left. So, of course, if we're talking some small school football, we're talking 8-man football. Of course, you know that includes the NUIC. Kyle Kampmier joining us. He's still crunching the numbers, Mitch. Look at him. He's still cranking out the info here. Kyle, welcome aboard, my friend.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate coming on as always, and definitely excited for the matchups this week, and of course, rolling into the state weekend.
Yeah. So, like I said in the intro, we've been talking football every day of the week here. Of course, we were jumping on Saturday night talking the Instant Reacts podcast for the quarterfinals. That was a great episode. Those episodes are always good, but that one was a great episode. We were joined live by Byron Tiger head coach Jeff Boyer. I can't believe it's the first time we had him on the show. I wish we could have had him on during the regular season. We should have had him on during the regular season, but hey, the most important games are now, so what better time than to bring him in? It was great to get his insights on their win over IC Catholic. Mitch, did you learn anything while talking to Coach Boyer there?
Yeah, it was good to have Coach Boyer on for the first time. We've been talking certainly more about Byron this year than previous years, but having been on this show during some of their runs, yeah, hard to believe we've never had Coach Boyer on there, but good to have him, and looking forward to their semifinal game, and we could be covering them even more and talking to Coach Boyer even more if they get that win and previewing a state final.
I hope we are, no doubt about that. We also had the head coach of the Stockton Blackhawks, Sean Downey, in. We did invite head coach Rick Arend in, but by the time things got up and rolling, I think he cashed in his chips for the night. I think he was done, but I want to make sure to note that we invited both coaches, but Sean Downey was able to step in, and Kyle, it was good to hear from, Stockton's head coach, and they got a heck of a matchup coming up here in the semifinals.
Definitely was. They know it. Everybody around the state knows it. It's definitely going to be very exciting. Obviously, there's a lot of things to talk about when we get to that matchup, so I don't want to delve into it too much here, but it's definitely the matchup everybody in this part of the state has definitely been foreshadowing ever since the brackets played out. So
yeah, I cannot wait to see the crowd that's in Stockton on Saturday. We'll talk about what we got coming up because that's really exciting stuff. But Mitch, if we're jumping in and talking about some great local high school football, tell the people, they already know, but tell the people who they need to know about here.
Tonight's episode is brought to you by our friends at Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They provide all the same sporting goods services as the big nationwide companies, but with a faster turnaround, and their uniform pricing is a fraction of the cost you're probably used to. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. Check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
That's right. We always thank Breedloves. We got to shout out a couple of their sponsors, though. All year long, our Three Rivers Athletic Conference coverage brought to you by Simulation Sports in Monmouth, Illinois. Visit thesimulationsports.com to book your golf or batting cage time today. We also, the Big Northern coverage brought to you by Byron Wealth Management. You can stop. I got to give a shout out to Sean Considine. Great defensive effort from the Byron Tigers, slowing down, stopping that IC Catholic team. They come away with that huge win we'll talk about here down the way. But thank you to Sean and Byron Wealth Management for sponsoring our Big Northern coverage. We also have Godfather's Pizza and Silvis. He's been keeping those hungry offensive linemen well fed all year long. So thank you to Godfather's Pizza and Silvis for their support. We also have our View from the West Game of the Week every week in the regular season, brought to you by Nate Neighbor of Modern Woodmen of America. You can contact Nate Neighbor to put together your financial game plan, 309-233-2656. Modern Woodmen, touching lives, securing futures. And how about a shout out to FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Dan Pearson. I got to walk the sideline with him in Geneseo for the second half of that game. Great atmosphere. Great to be there, and great to get Dan Pearson on the Instant Reacts pod, Mitch, even if the video didn't quite work, which, as you said, is the ultimate irony with Dan Pearson coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, good to have his voice and his perspective on a great day in Geneseo, regardless of the result. So he's always invited. It's an open invite. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, that's all the logistics, all the things we got to get. Any mentions, Mitch? Anyone that stands out that helped you out this past week? I mean, the usual suspects, they're there in full force.
Yeah. I mean, I this week I'll go away from mentioning anyone specifically, but
okay.
Even in playoff football, we've got eyes everywhere, going north, south, east, and west, covering these games and shooting video, sending scores. So once again, we always just appreciate that.
Yeah. How about we'll shout out Matt now stepping in, giving us some knowledge and insight on the big schools, the Chicagoland area. That was good stuff. That was good info.
Yeah, we don't get into that a whole lot. And if we do, it's, typically real terrible information and misaligned information.
No, we usually provide great uniform content for those schools.
Right. And that's about the extent of it. So, good to have Matt on. First time on the show, long time, been a supporter. So good to have Matt on with us.
Yeah. Oh, I failed to mention last week, one of the Dixon, we were talking about state champions from other sports or teams that did great in other sports. One of the Dixon cross-country teams finished as a state champion, and I failed to mention it. And now, as I'm calling it up on the fly, I can't remember if it was men's or women's, but either way, congratulations to the Dixon cross-country program, because they did well this fall, and we mentioned other sports, other teams that were doing well.
It was the boys program.
There we go. Thank Mitch. That's why you're the best in the business, right there.
Yep. Shout out to Google.
Hey, shout out to Corey Lambin. I got to see him, big hat guy. We've identified big hat guy, Carter Lambin's dad. Of course, we remember Carter Lambin, the kick blocking king, from last year and from previous years. Got to meet him, got to talk to him again on the sidelines at Geneseo. So awesome to run into him. I saw both Cullen Schweigen and Chase Schweigen on the sidelines at Geneseo. Truth be told, I wish I would have been seeing them on the Rockridge sidelines, playing another week, and I'm sure they wish the same thing, but always good to see them. And actually, Chase got video of me getting video of Geneseo. So there's like layers deep of, of video.
View from the West inception there.
That's right. And let me just say, my form was perfect, okay? I was dialed in.
As expected.
Yeah. All right. So before we look ahead and do all the previewing for the state title game in 8-man football, for the semifinal matchups that we have in our area and around the state, I think one more time, we need to look back on Saturday. Let's hear the results, Mitch, from 11-man, from the schools from our area, and kind of get us the build-in or what sets up these great matchups we have in the semifinals. and we'll talk about the state championship game for 8-man moving along as well.
That sounds good. Let's start in 4A. You had the 2 seed Morris defeating the 6 seed Geneseo 28-26. This is a fantastic game, back and forth the entire second half. It was just that Morris had scored first, and Geneseo just couldn't get over that hump. Geneseo scored late, went for an onside kick, almost got it. It was almost a repeat of that great game they had in the first round against Rochelle, but they did not come up with the onside kick. Morris was able to hang on and win. Again, 28-26 there.
Dan Pearson was there. He had some great highlights from that game. If you haven't seen him, if you want to see him, go back to the Instant Reacts podcast. We completely break down that game, how it played out. Dan Pearson on the show with his highlights rolling as he's kind of reading his highlights. It's like a highlight zone blast from the past right there. So you got to go check that out on the Instant Reacts podcast. And we also had highlights of some games you're going to mention down the way here from Monmouth-Roseville and from Lena-Winslow's win over Anawan-Wethersfield. So one more plug. Go check out the Instant Reacts. But Mitch, take it away.
All right. Moving into 3A, you had the top seed Richmond-Burton defeating Monmouth-Roseville 31-6. Again, a great season for Monmouth-Roseville. Just went up against a really good team. Richmond-Burton played really well. Their defense really stopped the Titans from getting anything going on the ground. Great game from Nick Houston, though, 144 yards and a touchdown in this effort. In 3A as well, the 2 seed Byron, they get over IC Catholic 28-6. Great game from Byron here. Great game plan. We talked to Coach Boyer there, as we mentioned on the Instant Reacts on Saturday. Tigers defense played really, really well. And just when you thought that they had all the weapons that they could possibly want, here comes Cole Aiken, 118 yards and a touchdown. He was out most of the year, but he is back and in full force. So that sets up Byron and Richmond-Burton, which we'll get into later in the show. Dropping into 2A, the 3 seed El Paso Gridley beat the 2 seed Farmington 32-15. Titans defense was really, really good. They had a pair of pick sixes and a safety. Farmington's offense just couldn't get going like we've expected them, or that we've seen in the regular season. So a great effort from Farmington. Again, I think we mentioned on the Instant Reacts, they've won 23 games in the last 2 years, and that's right up there with the Lee wins and the Montini. So just an excellent program there in Farmington, and fully anticipate them to reload next year and be right back. So EPG goes on to face Wilmington, which we will again talk about here shortly. In 1A, you had Lena-Winslow, the 3 seed, defeating Anawan-Wethersfield 42-20. Panthers going to the 1A North semifinals for the 8th straight year. Big games again from Aiden Wild and Alex Schlichting. And that sets up the rematch with top seed Stockton, who got past Dwight 44-0.
So there you go. There's your look at the 11-man quarterfinal games that set up the semifinal matchups. But I think before we get into those semifinal matchups, I think we got to start with the state championship game that's coming up this Friday night in Monmouth. The I-8FA state title game going to be played between Polo and Amboy. Probably the very best 8-man programs that we've seen since 8-man has gotten up and rolling in Illinois. And here it is, Kyle. The stage is set for what should be another great 8-man state title game between two teams this year and two programs overall that are very deserving of it.
Yeah, we hope it's definitely a great game. The last time these two teams met were in the 2023 semifinals. Amboy won that game 40-6. So Polo definitely looks a lot different from where they were at the beginning of the year. Amboy, definitely everything that we expected them to be going into the year. Obviously, they had that hiccup in week 1 as they were trying to figure out who they were. Quickly regained what they are, who they are, and right back in a state championship game for the 4th consecutive year. It's an amazing run what the Clippers are doing right now.
Yeah. So Amboy got the win over Milledgeville, 18-8. So that's how they end up here. And it was Polo getting the impressive shutout win over South Fork, 38-0. So Kyle, we talked a lot this past week about this was an opportunity potentially for South Fork to kind of break that trend, right? And become a team from the South that makes it past the NUIC, gets into a state title game. But man, once again, it's the Northwest Upstate Illini and it's Polo flexing their muscle. That's an impressive victory, an impressive margin of victory too, the way they got it done.
Yeah, they jumped out to a quick lead. They were up 16-0. Were able to get another touchdown there before halftime to take a 22-0 lead into halftime. And then in the second half, obviously they were able to score 2 more times. South Fork, hats off to them. They did everything that they could to try to mitigate what Polo was able to do. But when you're down 3 scores at half to a team like Polo, you're going to have a hard time coming back from that. I don't care who you are. And Polo did a phenomenal job on the defensive side of the ball to disrupt arguably probably the IFA player of the year in George Bailey and held him to under 100 yards for I believe it's the first time, maybe second time of the entire season. And just an impressive performance for Polo on all aspects of the game here.
Yeah. Let's talk through this Amboy victory then. They get the win 18-8, and I'm sure that anyone listening from Amboy is probably well aware that on your show, Kyle, I popped on the Milledgeville hat and made my prediction. And I stuck with it last week because I'd been really excited about Milledgeville and what they've been doing, what they've been building. And here we go. It's Amboy getting the win 18-8. And man, I think, I8FA football gets once in a while they get, poked fun at for it's all offense, right? 8-man football is all offense. I think games along the way will, debunk that myth. This game especially debunks that. Talk about the defensive effort on both sides of the ball, but an Amboy coming away with the win.
Yeah, I mean, Amboy got up 6-0 in the first half, took that into a halftime score where they're up 6-0. Somewhere in the fourth quarter, they were able to punch in another touchdown to make it 12-0. Milledgeville was then able to get the ball. They went down, scored, got the 2-point conversion, made that game 12-8 with like 5 minutes left in the game. Kicked an onside kick that was recovered by Milledgeville. They started to drive again. A bad snap went over the head of Spencer Nye, and basically he had to retreat 14 yards to pick it up and cover it up, and that negated the scoring threat that they had. And then Amboy later, like 2 minutes later, was able to punch in basically the final touchdown that definitely put the dagger in the game there for that 18-8 win. So, yeah, defensive efforts, you knew it was going to be that way. I was taking a look at Milledgeville stats that Coach Roble had sent me. Milledgeville only had like 123 yards on the ground, and I think it was like 50 yards in the air, if that. I mean, it was very minimal compared to what we've seen Milledgeville do throughout the course of the season. So Amboy definitely was able to turn up the defense, turn up the pressure, forced Milledgeville into a lot of mistakes. And then on top of that, on the other side of the ball, Jose Lopez, big day, 30 attempts, 206 yards, scored all 3 of Amboy's touchdowns as well.
Yeah. I mean, you look at this Amboy squad, and they graduated a lot last year. And I think that coming into this season, you kind of wondered, would they remain up at that high level? And did they have guys that were going to step up? And Lopez is definitely one of those guys. But how much of a credit is it to this coaching staff to see kind of them back in the state title game where it's not the same group? It's a new wave of players here for the most part that have stepped in, and they keep the Clippers rolling here.
Yeah, I mean, you take a look at the seniors and juniors. I mean, the junior class, they've done nothing but win state championships. Yeah. The senior class, they've been to state now 4 consecutive years. So, I mean, when these guys were freshmen and sophomores, they're going up against state championship caliber competition every single day in practice. And, when you run into dynasties like what Amboy is starting to become, the old saying is iron sharpens iron. I mean, there's no better iron to sharpen against than a state championship caliber team that you get to face off against every single day in practice.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So here we go. It's Polo and Amboy meeting up Friday in Monmouth for the state championship game. What I love about this matchup, Mitch, I'll bring you in here. What I love about this matchup, and then Kyle, you can respond as well, is that this, for the first time, you have the chance, someone is going to be a 3-time 8-man state champion, and it's never been done in the short history of the I8FA. So I think that this is a cool matchup of like the very best programs in 8-man. They've never met in a state title game, and here they are. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot of fun. I mean, both these programs, Polo is 16-3 all time in the playoffs in the I8FA. Amboy is 16-2 all time in the I8FA playoffs. So you have the two winningest playoff programs going up against each other for the first time in a state championship game. And like I said, they've only met one time in the playoffs, and that was 2 years ago in the semifinals where Amboy just destroyed everybody on their way to their first state title.
Yeah. Mitch, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
No, it's exciting. Certainly from Kyle's perspective, it's exciting to get another NUIC championship one way or another. But I've been impressed with Polo and Amboy. I don't mean to take away from Amboy. I thought Milledgeville would win. It was a close game. You know, like Kyle just kind of described how that game played out. It was 12-6 until I think it was 45 seconds left in the game when Lopez broke that long touchdown end to end the game. But so a great semifinal, two great teams there, and Amboy just taking it to Polo taking it to South Fork on their side. So I think you get two teams coming in here with a lot of momentum. Certainly, that's not a hot take for a state championship game, but just the way that they've been playing. Both defenses are coming in really hot, and I think that's going to be the key for both teams in that Milledgeville game. You know, Coach Roble had talked about how in the first half they really had their backs really they're in the shadows of their own end zone, so to speak, and they scored the Amboy scored their first touchdown after a blocked punt, and they got really good field position. So, I think both defenses here have a lot to prove if they can slow down each other's high-powered offensive attacks. Certainly, Amboy was able to do it against Milledgeville, and Polo was able to do it against George Bailey. So this is a very, very exciting matchup.
Yeah. So, Kyle, I would say, kind of looking, I'll pull the bracket back up here and we can kind of look through it. But I would say that overall, it's been Amboy that's been more tested so far in this postseason run. But I guess my question, I think Amboy's been more tested based maybe just on that Milledgeville game they had to get through. But my question is, what's the more impressive win? Amboy getting the win over a really good Milledgeville program, or is it Polo getting the win and the decisive win over South Fork the way they did 38-0? Which is the more impressive win to you?
To me, it's definitely the Polo win over South Fork. I mean, let's be honest. The guys from Spotlight on I8FA this past week on their podcast made a little goof. They said I picked Milledgeville to win. I did not. If you go back to the playoff show, I picked Amboy to win on the playoff show, and last week I picked Amboy to win as well. So I'm not sure where they got me picking Milledgeville at.
Come on, Joe. What do you got to do to Kyle here? What are you doing to Kyle?
But regardless, I did have South Fork picked to be the team both on the playoff show and again last week. I was, maybe it was more wishful thinking to see that perhaps that a team from the South could rise up, and they took care of step one. That was taking care of West Carroll, and the score separation there was definitely a lot better than what Polo's score separation was against West Carroll. But it also speaks to the growth that Polo's had since that week 3 game against West Carroll, where they won 30-20, compared to where they're at currently. And like I said, to go down to Kincaid, so you're taking a 3-hour drive south, and then you're playing the number 1 rushing attack in all of 8-man football and completely shut them down. That was definitely more impressive to me. Amboy, I felt, was while maybe the underdog, they were actually going into that game as a favorite, especially having the game at their own backyard.
Yeah. All right, so here's the matchup. It's two of the big name programs like we've already discussed. So Kyle, what are the keys, or what do you look at in this game? Getting into some of the particulars, what are the keys?
Well, here's the biggest one. Both these teams are running teams first. And both of them will play off of play action. Both of them will probably go to a wildcat at some point in time as well. Looking at Polo and Amboy collectively, the top three running backs for Polo have over 3,200 yards rushing on the season. The top three backs for Amboy are just under 3,200 yards rushing on the season. So comparatively, very, very similar there. Polo has two guys that are both over 1,000 yards. Mercer Mumford sits at 1,498 yards on the season going into the state championship game. Quarterback JT Stevenson is just under 1,100 yards at 1,095. And then Jordan Reed has 681 yards on the season. Between Stevenson and Mumford, they have combined for 42 rushing touchdowns, and Reed has added another 8 touchdowns. So 50 total rushing touchdowns between those guys. On Amboy side, Jose Lopez leads that attack, 1,544 yards, 26 touchdowns. Colt McCoy is just knocking on the door. He's at 946 yards, has 17 touchdowns. And then Caden Heath, 634 yards, but another 15 touchdowns there. All three of those guys average 10 yards per carry or more.
Yeah, that's impressive. And it feels like, something's got to give right in this game. It's that, that run versus run attack, and whose defense can step up and make a few plays, That's what's going to be fascinating.
Yeah, and when you take a look at the passing game on both of these guys, Tanner Welch and JT Stevenson, almost similar stats. Tanner Welch has completed 25 passes on 54% completion rate, but 12 touchdowns to 1 interception. JT Stevenson has completed 33 passes for 524 yards on a 50% completion rate, 11 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. So Amboy is definitely a little bit more effective when the ball goes in the air, but more times than not, that ball's going to one guy, Cody Wynn. I think Polo has the defense to be able to play a man up with maybe a cover over top on Wynn, while also sustaining that run defense, which could potentially give them a little bit of support and help. But ideally, you got two power run teams going at each other with a little bit of play action. Your typical wing T style offense is just dialed down a bit because it's 8-man, so it's going to look just a little bit different. But same principles, same blocking schemes. It's going to come down to the line of scrimmage like most big games do, and who can win that line of scrimmage and win that edge off the ball. And where I like Polo at is they've taken some things. They've moved All-Stater Wyatt Plackno and kind of into a lead fullback position in almost like an offset I style backfield, and running right off the tight end of Damon Rao and putting two big lead blockers out in front of Mercer Mumford. And likewise, Amboy's looking to do the same thing off of their big tight end in Evan Flanagan as well. And then, Amboy adds a little bit of extra there because they have a good trap game up front with Trevor Stenzel at center too. So it's going to be interesting. I think line-wise, size advantage will favor Amboy to a slight degree, but it's going to come down to who gets that push and who can create that open space. I mean, I think speed-wise, Mumford has the speed over everybody else, but strength-wise, I think Jose Lopez is definitely the hard runner, and Colt McCoy is going to do a lot of the same things. And then, let's be honest, Caden Heath is tough as nails. I think the X factor is going to be what JT Stevenson can do for Polo. Can he be effective in the run game as he has been here later in the season, and then be able to continue to steer and guide this offense the way he's done over this run in the playoffs?
Yeah. You know, they always say you got to play your best football in November. But Mitch, I think you got to talk your best football in November. Kyle is killing it here. Are you hearing this knowledge he's dropping on this pod?
Why, he's the best, man.
Absolutely.
Just dropping knowledge on the folks.
So, Kyle, you will be in Monmouth on Friday night. I do want to give a shout out to people who want to watch the game. It'll be on TSSR Game Time Live on YouTube. They do a great job covering it. They've covered it in years past, correct? This is kind of a...
This will be their 5th consecutive year covering the state championship games.
I was going to say, I know I've watched their previous broadcasts. They do a really good job with it. Are you involved in that at all? Are you going to be their pregame show or anything?
Yes, I did talk to Dwayne Hewlett this morning, actually.
Great.
So I will be on at some point during the live pregame.
All right. Mitch, you going to keep your eyes on this one from the command center?
Yeah, I'll be watching it. I'll be nice and warm while it's cold there on the field in Monmouth.
There you go. No, but this is the best time of year for Kyle because now it's like press box time for him. He gets to sit up in the cozy booth, so he loves it. So
should be in the low 40s there for the state championship game, as always this time of year.
All right, yeah, that's
a lot warmer
bad.
Than the last couple of years, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, before we get into maybe making a prediction here, I kind of just want to let you kind of give a plug or just kind of promote 8-man football, because I feel like a few years ago, Mitch and I were really on the train of like, let's make this an IHSA sanctioned sport. And I really felt like, honestly, if I'm being honest, I felt like we'd already have it by now. Somewhere along the way, I feel like that momentum slowed down. And to I8FA's credit, I think they're doing a great job of organizing it around the state and keeping it a really viable product that is creating excitement, creating an opportunity for some smaller schools. But I want to see it at the IHSA level because I think it just adds a little bit, that extra thing, extra boost to it. But give a plug for 8-man football because I know you love it. I know it's been a great thing for a lot of schools in your area and around the state.
Yeah, I mean, so I'll start off where you just led us. And, as far as going into IHSA, I think that there's been always a lot of talk, and there's still talk there. It's just more on a minute level, where people want it to be IHSA regulated. I think that they feel, too, that if IHSA got involved, maybe they would bring in a different cap for enrollment purposes because, let's be honest, there's people that complain about teams like Pawnee and Amboy where they have higher enrollments because of their co-ops, and they're basically getting a lot of wins. So people see it as, you're basically padding your stats to get wins because you couldn't win an 11-man, that kind of talk. There's just not a lot of knowledge as to what is truly going on the surface level of things. But despite all of that, I think, too, that if IHSA were to take it over, you might see a couple other teams start to jump in. I know head coach and IFA president John Lawler from Alden Hebron has talked about it, where he wants to see more southern teams kind of jump in to create more balance on the southern half of the state. There's definitely teams down there, like in Arcola, Achero Gordo, Pleasant Hill, North Green, that are definitely in that survival mode right now that probably should look at jumping into 8-man football to at least help establish or sustain what they have left of a football program. And which is hard to say for Arcola. I mean, they're one of the winningest programs of all time in state history, but they're definitely in a hard time right now. And I think some of their reluctance to get into it is the fact that it's not IHSA affiliated. On the flip side of that, like you said, Lawler's done a great job of creating a committee of his own. They listen to what people have said, like I think it was 2 years ago, the southern half of the state, there was a bunch of teams that were talking about forming their own 8-man league and just jumping out of IFA because they felt like everything was just favored to the northern half of the state. Lawler took that information and listened, and they created a committee, and they restructured the divisions, and they put more balance with a little bit lesser travel in place to help give it more balance. And I think that's been a great thing. And then, of course, seeding the playoffs straight 1 through 16. We hear all the time people complains about travel, people want travel. And everybody I've talked to, whether it be coaches, athletic directors, a lot of them are definitely in favor, of IHSA going straight seeding 1 through 32. Obviously, not a lot of people in the southern half of the state are in favor of that. And I think a lot of that definitely plays into the fact that if you look over just take the last 10 years, and we'll stay small school football 1A through 3A, basically 7 of your last 10, 8 of your last 10 champions, or 9 of your last 10 champions have come from the northern half of the bracket. And I think they feel that if they go 1 through 32, they're not even going to have a state representative at state. Will that always be the case? No. I mean, there's people that are already complaining about Stockton, Lena-Winslow being in the state or in the semifinals this week. Honestly, if it were 1 through 32 this year, they would have been on the same side of the bracket and they'd be meeting up in the semifinals had they got through everybody that they were supposed to get through anyway. So it really doesn't change much there. But can it? Yes. Has it provided us better state championship quality games in the past when we had it from 1996 to 2001? I felt that it did. And as far as travel, I mean, everybody I've seen in 8-man football has loved the travel part.
Yep.
Maybe not so much in the regular season, but definitely in the playoffs, they've definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's been great. I've really, if you've listened to this podcast, I think people can realize we really enjoy following along in the 8-man schools because I just think it's provided opportunities for a lot of schools that, we're struggling to keep a program or we're struggling to find wins. And I think that fit has provided them really good opportunities. So I love that. And I love talking about kind of the way it plays out. So I see, Kyle, on your X feed, you have the link to the game pinned up at the top. For anybody looking for it, you can go out there, find the link to Game Time Live. That'll be where you can find the highlight or watch the full broadcast there. Listen to Kyle drop knowledge on that show, just like he's dropping on our show. So, all right, I think without any further ado, I think it's prediction time for the I8FA State Championship Game 2025. Amboy Clippers and the Polo Marcos. Somebody is bringing home a 3rd state championship and, kind of a dynasty here, especially for Amboy because we've done it in recent years, but Polo certainly as well, getting back and having a chance to put their name back on a state title trophy. So, Mitch, I'll start with you. I'm going to save Kyle for last but not least.
Right. No, like I said, I think, and I agree with everything that Kyle just said. 2 power running teams that have been playing really, really good defense. Amboy coming in as the 2-time defending champions, trying to go for the 3-peat. Certainly Polo trying to get their 3rd as well. A lot of history on the line, as you talked about, and I'm really looking forward to this game. So when it comes down to it for me, is I've already got heat from Amboy people, and I'm not afraid to have any more. Give me Polo. Give me the Polo defense. They stopped George Bailey. I think they really had that planned out really, really well. Offense is clicking. I feel like it's the Polo's year. I thought they were going to get to the state title game. I thought it was going to be Milledgeville, but I thought Polo would get there. And I was really, really impressed with how they played against South Fork. And I'm going with the Marcos on Friday night.
All right. When I look at this one, I just think that it's 2 great coaches, right? I'm really intrigued about the coaching matchup because obviously these two have proven it with groups that they've brought, year in and year out to state title games, winning state title games. I love what both these coaches bring to the table, but I think that what Amboy is doing here, what Coach Payne and the Clippers are doing here to kind of reload. I know that kind of sounds cliche. We hear that a lot, but this group really did. And I think at some point, I got to learn my lesson. I picked against them last year in the state title game. I picked against them this year in the semifinal game, and they've continued to prove me wrong. So I can't keep doing it. I gotta respect the ball they're playing in Amboy. Give me the Clippers to win their third state championship in a row. I think the dynasty is staying there for Amboy, Lamoille, Ohio. Those communities are bringing home another state championship. So Kyle, we got one from each. You're the X factor here.
So, yeah, I agree with what both of you guys have said to this point. And like I've said, we've seen growth out of Amboy. We've seen a lot more growth out of Polo, in my opinion, based off what I've seen coming since week 1 to week 3 to week 7 to week 9, and then throughout the playoffs. I like where Polo's at, but I also really like what Amboy has done. And when you go back and you look at what they had to go through in week 1, and then you take a look at the body of work since week 1, they turned around an 8-point loss into a 10-point win. Nobody else has played Milledgeville in that realm, not even the Polo Marcos. I think that Amboy has the moxie. I think they also are going to have the most pressure on them because of their recent success. Polo is happy to be there because they're back. I think both coaching staffs are absolutely amazing at what they do. It clearly shows in their playoff records over the last 5-6 seasons. Amboy's going to enter this game as a 3-point favorite. But Amboy's going to win by more than that. I think Amboy takes it home.
So there we go. 2 picks for Amboy. Mitch, you're riding with Polo on this one. Either way, no matter how you slice it, it's going to be an exciting, great atmosphere, great game down there in Monmouth. It's always great when 2 of the teams from our coverage area make it to that IFA state title game, and we've been pretty fortunate that almost every year that's what we're seeing. So, all right, boy, Mitch, you dialed in. You ready to go for this one?
Like I said, I think it's going to be a really fun matchup. Now again, I thought that last year, and then or was it 2 years ago that Amboy just won like 70-6 or something?
Oh man, yeah.
I don't expect that this year, but yeah, 2 great teams, 2 great coaching staffs, great players everywhere. If you have never watched 8-man football, if Kyle didn't pump you up enough, tune into YouTube on Friday night and watch the state championship. It'll be good.
Yep. Well, hey Kyle, you want to stick around and talk some 11-man football with us?
No, absolutely.
This is Dan Pearson of Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Our FCA team of staff, board, and volunteers is pleased to support View from the West with Greg and Mitch. Our Northwest Illinois FCA team is 3 teams in 1, serving coaches and athletes in the 3 Rivers, Northern Illinois, and Greater Peoria areas, all with schools covered by View from the West. For more information, email me at danpearson@fca.org. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
Hey there, local high school football fans. This is Sean Considine, a Byron Tiger and Iowa Hawkeye alumni, and now an LPL financial advisor. I'm passionate about high school football because it's the purest form of the game where communities come together. You can find me in my Byron office until I run off to football practice. I'm happy to talk about football or the markets. I'll leave that up to you. I want to wish everyone across Illinois a safe, successful, and memorable high school football season.
Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
Hey, this is Brett Bielma, the head coach of the Fighting Illini from Prophetstown, Illinois. You're listening to the View from the West podcast.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with.
So we already talked about the results in the quarterfinals. That sets up some great games in the state semifinals. We got 3 teams left in 11-man football, but the big matchup, we got to start in Class 1A, the matchup we've been waiting for. We saw it back in our preview episodes, Mitch, that we thought these two teams were on a collision course. It was Stockton getting the win in week 2 over Lena-Winslow, but here we go. We're back again. Stockton hosting Lena-Winslow in the state semifinals with a trip to the state championship game on the line. Does it get any better than that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking 2 of the top, if not the top 2 teams ranked in 1A that have been up in the top 2 rankings all season. And here we go. We get a rivalry matchup. We talk about these that we sometimes see in the first couple rounds, and that we always hope that whether it's straight seeding or whatever the circumstances are, that we get them later in the season. And we can't get much later than the semifinals unless you go 1 through 32. So absolutely, this is what we've been wanting. It's what we saw happening, really. All due respect to the teams that Stockton and Lena-Winslow beat along the way. But as soon as these brackets came out and we saw that they were on opposite sides of the North, it was pretty clear that this is where we were headed. So awesome that we're here. Can't wait to watch this game. Can't wait to preview it with you guys. And I know that you'll both be there on Saturday. And what an absolute awesome atmosphere that's going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Saturday, 3 p.m., John O'Boyle Field in Stockton. What a setting for a great matchup here. Both teams get the convincing wins in the state quarterfinals. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, Lena-Winslow winning 42-20 over Anawan-Wethersfield. Aiden Wild, 176 yards, 5 touchdowns. Alex Schlichting adding 127 yards. He had at least 1 touchdown of his own. So, you know, I think that, and then on the other side of things, it's Stockton getting the win, 44-0 over Dwight. Again, convincing win there for the top seed in the North. So it's, Kyle, 2 teams that have been on that collision course and not just getting here, but really kind of controlling ball games, dominating wins to get here. They've both looked really impressive.
First off, I'm going to correct a stat line real quick, and I know it's not your fault.
He was over 200.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Wild had 261 yards.
How many?
261.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I will say, the radio guy said 176.
He did.
That's why that's in there.
He did. Mitch is right. It was an error. I got the official stats from Rick, and 261.
Wow. I knew he had a lot because I was getting video of it. So
yeah, it looked like on your highlights, like when I saw them, and he busted out big long, these long runs and chunk yards. I'm like, I think he probably had more than 176. So
yeah. Well, speaking of those highlights, Mitch, the full extended highlights now available on our YouTube channel. So head on out to View from the West on YouTube. Of course, subscribe if you're not already. Our subscribers are growing into the 800s, Mitch. Are we not quite to 900 yet?
We're catching Kyle pretty quick on YouTube, I think. Now, no contest between the two of us, but we're at 837 right now and climbing.
All right, there we go. So Follow along, subscribe on YouTube if you're not already. You can find game highlights of that Lena-Winslow win. You can find game highlights that I've been covering throughout the season. And of course, podcast clips, full podcast episodes, all the good stuff you want out there. So anyway, two really great wins here. But Kyle, back to the initial question. Really impressed by both teams, right?
By far. I mean, we've talked about it all year. Ever since that loss by Lena-Winslow in week 2, where Stockton kind of shocked the state, and ever since then, this has been the conversation. Will both of these teams survive DUPEC? Will both of them got through DUPEC? Will both of them finish out the season where they're at? Well, both of them finished out the season where they were at. Well, can anybody in the playoffs get them? Well, nobody's been able to touch either one of them. So we're right where we wanted them to be. Like you said, John O'Boyle Field. No, it's not the nicest of places in the state of Illinois, but it is one of the most intimate places in the state of Illinois.
I think what Kyle is saying is it's not the most modern, right? It's not the biggest, most recent renovated, brand new state of the art. But hey, man,
no, he said not nice.
You know,
he said not nice.
Oh.
I did counter that though, and I said it's probably one of the most intimate places.
There is so much charm. It is oozing from the sidelines there at John O'Boyle. I love it. I can't wait to get there. So I guess, we'll start with, Kyle, what are the keys here? We've talked a lot about these teams. If you want to hear more about the games they just played, that's on the Instant Reacts podcast. But right now, I really want to look ahead and as these teams get a rematch here from week 2, where Stockton came away with the win, what's the keys here in this rematch?
Well, without giving too much away, so don't ask me for a pick today because I want to save that.
We're not doing that. We're not doing that. That's a tease ahead. Yes.
Yeah. And I don't want to give out too much information as well, but obviously the keys are who's going to establish the line of scrimmage. It's very similar to what it was in week 2. And Stockton dominated the line of scrimmage in week 2. Has Lena-Winslow been able to strengthen that offensive line to be able to go 4 quarters with Stockton's line? And that's just the thing. There's been one team that I've seen be able to push Stockton around this year, and that was DUPEC. But they couldn't do it for 4 quarters, and it proved as Stockton was able to finish off the game there back in week 8 and get the win to secure a conference title. Obviously, when you take a look at Stockton first, yes, you have a 3-headed monster there in Carter Blair, Jack Menson-Dyke, and Mark Detweiler. Those 3 backs all almost ran or were right around 1,000 yards last season. That's not the case this year. When you take a look at where they're at, Menson-Dyke's definitely the workhorse. 150 carries, 1,343 yards, 16 touchdowns. Carter Blair, 77 attempts, 717 yards, and 7 touchdowns. And Detweiler, 107 attempts, 482 yards, and 10 touchdowns. So a lot of people have really put a lot of focus on stopping Detweiler. But what they're missing out on is that Menson-Dyke has definitely jumped into being the lead back for the Stockton offense, and everybody's having a problem trying to stop him right now. You combine that with the play of Eli Larson, the All-Stater, which we expected. The bigger surprise is on the other side at tight end in Morgan Hass, who has more than substantiated his part to complement Eli Larson, forcing a defense. Which one are you going to pick to stop? And it becomes very hard, especially when you take a look that Morgan Hass is the leading receiver for Stockton, followed by Larson, and then followed by Menson-Dyke. You combine that with the throwing aspects of Noah Larson, who is over 1,000 yards now on the season, 18 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, 61% completion rate. Very effective. On top of that, he is starting to get his legs into the game as well. He's sitting just under 300 yards rushing himself. So while he's not a focal point to take off and run, the capabilities are definitely there for him to be that additional threat. The other side, Lena-Winslow is doing what Lena-Winslow does. And that's feed wild, feed schlichting, and just keep pounding you. And obviously they're getting really good at it. And a lot of people are already starting to talk, well, they gave up 22 points to Forston. They gave up 20 points to Anawan Wethersfield. Well, let's take a look at that real quick.
Kyle's bringing it here.
Lena-Winslow led Forston 48-8 with over 7 minutes remaining in the third quarter. Lena-Winslow led GCMS 43-7 with just under 11 minutes to still play in the fourth quarter. Lena-Winslow led Anawan Wethersfield 42-6 right at the end of the third quarter. So what's that tell you? They've given up 21 points on their starters. The other 35 points that they've given up in these playoffs have come against their reserves. They're outscoring their opponent starter for starter 44-7 in these playoffs. Stockton has done a phenomenal job. They've given up 3 points in the entire playoffs. They're outscoring their opponents on average 32-1.
There you go.
But until the Dwight game, they were having a hard time getting points on the board. Galena put up a great defensive effort in the first half, and then Stockton was able to break through in the second half to get 3 more scores to win 26-0. Same thing against Hayworth. Hayworth had a great defensive effort, and they used their offense as a defense on top of that to hold Stockton to 1 score in the first half. Stockton had to earn it there in the second half, put up another 3 touchdowns. Against Dwight, they just rolled. And it's so hard right now. I think Stockton definitely put up a game against Dwight that kind of not 100% replicated what they did against Lena-Winslow in week 2, but it wasn't far off from it either. I mean, they weren't as crisp and as clean as they were against Lena-Winslow in week 2, but they were right there knocking on that door. And you could easily say that this was probably the most complete game that they've played since that week 2 win over Lena-Winslow. There's no better place for it than right now. Right here, right now. Right? This is going to be huge. And they get to be at home in this game. These two teams have never met in the semifinals.
Wow.
The furthest they've met in the playoffs is in the quarterfinals. And here's another little nugget of knowledge. These teams have met 3 times in the regular season that they met up in the postseason. The winner in the regular season game has also won the postseason game.
Oh, all 3 times, huh?
All 3 times.
All right.
1994,
Yep.
2012, and 2024.
And there you go. Yep. All right. Well, Mitch, your thoughts kind of on this matchup? It's obviously, like we've said, one we've had circled for a long time.
And I'll echo a lot of what I said on Saturday. I think these are 2 teams that are coming in looking differently than they did in week 2. And I don't mean that for good or bad reasons. I've been very vocal that I think since then, and certainly in the last 5-6 weeks, I don't think there's been a better team, or a team playing better, I should say, than Lena-Winslow. I think they have figured out how to distribute the ball on offense. Defensively, they've just been hammering their opponents. I don't think anyone has looked better. I think very, very close, though, to them is Stockton. And after we knew round 1 was going to be tough for Stockton. Galena would beat nearly all other 1A teams, right? With the exception of maybe 3 or 4. Stockton was unfortunately one of them. And the Hayworth game surprised me a little bit. And so after those 2 weeks and you saw them only scoring 26 a game, it's like, okay, well, what happened to Stockton's offense? Like, why can't they get it going? And certainly there are reasons for that. Glena's defense is really good. Hayworth had a good game plan. You get to the quarterfinals, and Stockton looked like Stockton. It was finally the first time that they had looked like Stockton in a while. And so to Kyle's point, it doesn't matter what happened 2 weeks ago. It matters how you played right now. And so here comes Stockton playing, again, what I thought was their most complete game in a long time. And Lee Wynn coming in as the hottest team in 1A. Man, we're not to predictions yet, so I won't go there. I will say I don't think either team can take a lot from that week 2 game, if that makes sense, right? You can look at the film because both teams are going to look very similar in terms of the product that they put on the field. But I think they're just playing at a different, both teams are playing at a different level than they did in week 2. And I just don't think the game will look, I don't expect it to be a Stockton blowout, but I expect the game to look a little different than it did there in week 2.
Well, we've heard about it from both coaches, and Kyle, you've mentioned it over the weeks. Mitch, I think we've talked about it too, that we haven't seen everything from either one of these teams yet. They've both played the long game, hoping that if things went the way they thought they would, that they would meet up again, especially once the bracket drew itself out. Then they saw what was going to play out if they kept winning like they should. So I don't think we've seen everything. So I think what becomes really intriguing for me is who is the game planning, is the X's and O's between Coach Aaron and Coach Downey, and which team has that wrinkle that can expose something, which team has that wrinkle that can catch a team off guard. And I that's why they're coaching, and I'm just here talking about it because they're the smart ones who are going to figure it out. But I think that's really what I'm looking for, is kind of what are we going to see that kind of makes us do a double take, like, whoa, what was that? And I think Coach Downey even kind of referenced it, that maybe even more so than a state title game, I think you're going to see absolutely everything thrown out there. There's no more secrets to be had. Mitch, you mentioned predictions there, but Kyle teased it, and I am in agreement with him. We're not going to give a prediction for this 1A game, Kyle, because I'll let you tell the people, promote the product, what we're doing here on Saturday, because, man, I am geared up. I got to say, I'll let you introduce it. I even told my wife about this idea, and she, hears a lot of my football talk, but even her did a double take and was like, you're going to do that? That's awesome. That's a great idea. So if I got my wife's seal of approval, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm saying if Becca approves, then this is like the hottest ticket in town this weekend for sure. And the great thing is I got my wife on board, so Carrie's going to be in attendance to help out with a lot of this production as well. The production extraordinaire Carrie, always running the ship behind the scenes. So we love it. So what we're going to do is kind of what was brought to our request by some fans, and we've found a way where we can carry this out. It's not the first time it's been brought up, but it's probably the first time we've actually had everything capable to be able to provide this. We're going to do a Saturday game day edition live at John O'Boyle Field before the game kicks off. And we're going to run through Class 1A, 2A, and 3A, just like we are at State. We're going to go through, talk about all the semifinal games, and pick our winners then. And then we're going to save the Stockton Lena-Winslow game for last for the grand finale in Lee Corso, Pat McAfee style, and put out all of our picks right then and there. And it's going to be fun. I encourage anybody who's listening to the show that wants to come. We're going to go live at 12:30, which is 2.5 hours before kickoff.
Yes.
We're going to go live at 12:30. So if you want to be in attendance for it, go for it. You probably won't hear us unless you hear us up close because we're not going to have speakers set up.
Yeah.
It'll be more for the audience on TV. But you're more than welcome to come, give support, all that extra jazz. It'll be a ton of fun. I'm excited for it. I think we've never done it before.
It's going to be a great atmosphere, and this just adds to it. So, hey, I'll have to bring out the View from the West swag, bring out the koozies, the stickers, the wristbands. We'll blow it all out. We'll bring everything, give the people what they need. So that'll be a ton of fun. But it's a great idea, and like I said, it's going to be such a great atmosphere there. This kind of matches that, and Mitch, do we need to get is it the Washington State flag that always flies behind every college game day? I think we need to
That would be fun. That would be funny.
Yeah.
Just someone, whether it's an NUIC football flag or a View from the West flag, whatever game they go to, just wave it. Who cares? Do it in Chicago.
Yep.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So no,
now listen. Am I going to be able to be satellite in to
Yes.
the show, or
Yeah.
do I need to do my prediction here? Okay.
No, we're bringing you into the show, Mitch.
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
I'll be ready.
Awesome.
I'll be ready.
Great. Oh man, that's going to be a ton of fun. Anything else, Mitch, you got on this game? And
No, I'll save it. I think there is a key, but I'm not gonna get into that right now. I do have my pick.
You're already dialed in, huh?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm solid in that.
Okay.
I'm solid in my convictions,
Yep.
and so yeah, I will reveal that along with the rest of us on Saturday.
I'm still wavering. I got to admit, I don't know as of recording time right now who my pick is. So whenever you're listening to this, I'm probably deep in thought, still thinking about it. But Kyle, I won't go any farther. I'll let you. You haven't. Do you have a team locked in or no?
I'm not locked in yet. I'm almost as set on my convictions as Mitch, but no, I'm not locked in. I see areas where both teams can attack, which I'll cover on Saturday when we go live.
Perfect.
But I see areas where both teams can attack to benefit them into getting more points on the board and coming away with a victory. And I'll leave it at that.
There we go. Okay, I'm trying to rack my brain on the fly. When was the last time NUIC teams met in the semifinals for a trip to state?
That would have been 2022, Forest
Okay.
and Lena-Winslow.
There we go. Okay. Yep. I knew it hadn't been too long ago, but yeah, I mean, it's great. I was going to say, it feels like, that heavyweight fight that was Lee Wynn and Forreston from a few years ago. And that makes sense. That was the last time the two teams met in the semis. So
Yeah, I'm excited for this matchup, obviously. This is going to be huge.
yeah, no doubt about it. It's great. I will be there walking the sidelines, getting some video. I'll be there for the pregame, for all the festivities, for all the hype. Do we have a location? Where do we think we can set up?
I'm thinking about setting up in the
Second base.
yeah, in the west end zone.
Okay. All right. By the scoreboard? There we go. So that's probably like third base line there, Mitch.
Yeah, the scoreboard itself is on the third base line, but
Yeah.
second base would be like by the goalpost.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, really, if for any of the fans that are wanting just to come and hang out, like if anything, get an early parking spot. I
Yeah.
mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And actually, the more I think
parking's gonna
about
be a
it,
premium.
I do have a JBL boom box. I might be able to.
Oh, we could figure something out then.
Yeah.
All right. Might be a little trial and error, but it's gonna be great. Yeah, I'm excited. We'll be hitting the road. We'll get there.
One thing we know for sure: the production here will be prime.
Yep.
It's if the crowd that wants to show up to watch can hear.
Yeah. They'll be excited regardless. It'll be a great atmosphere. So
Yeah, and we can pump them up. We can do a lot of that stuff.
Yep. So there it is. Lena-Winslow traveling to Stockton Saturday, 3 p.m. Were you a little surprised by the later kickoff, or gives people time to get there, I suppose?
No, I wasn't. There was conversation around it. There was a little gamesmanship around it.
Okay.
Let's just put it this way. One wanted later, the other wanted earlier, and neither one of them were wanting to budge too much.
Okay. So let the games begin on the rivalry here. Yeah.
Okay, question. The IHSA has no say in that?
They do if you do not come to an agreement.
Okay.
Yeah. So
I was just curious because Calhoun and Brown County play at 1, so I didn't know if they always tried to stagger them a little bit.
No, they'll try to find a middle ground, which based off the original game times presented, 3 o'clock was middle ground.
there we go. All right. Well, that's interesting in itself, and we haven't even gotten to the field yet. So there you go.
Anybody that knows Rick knows that Rick wanted 1 o'clock. Let's just put it.
So
at that.
Lewin wanted 1 and Downey wanted 7. Got it.
Okay.
Well, 5. You wanted 5.
Okay. There we go. All right, boys. Well, that's a huge matchup for our area, and like we've talked about it, we can't wait for it. We've been waiting for it all year long, so it's going to be great. And it's good to know, Mitch, it's job security that we will be represented in Normal, Illinois for the state championship game from the NUIC. Kyle, give us the rundown. How many years in a row, or what's it been for the NUIC?
This will be the 9th consecutive year the NUIC will be having a representative at the state championships.
Amazing.
And it's the 14th time in the last 15 seasons.
Wow.
And if you count 2014, we actually sent 2 teams to state that year.
So there you go. What a run. Yeah, it's awesome. So going to be a great game there in Stockton. And then we're going to find out who those teams will be playing in the state championship game. So for the NUIC taking all the headlines in the north, it's the WIVC taking all the headlines in the south. It's Hardin Calhoun. They will be hosting Mount Sterling, Brown County, on Saturday at 1 o'clock. And we already saw the video and the pictures from Logan Swan. The cars, the trucks already parked at the stadium in Calhoun. They are pumped, Kyle. They cannot wait for this one.
Yeah, I can't believe, but then I can.
Yeah.
That they have all these trucks and vehicles lined up at the field already saving their spots so they don't have to worry about it come Friday or Saturday. That's crazy. It's crazy.
I thought Ty Taylor had the good comment in our text thread that, like, don't these people need their truck during the week?
Yeah.
So I hadn't thought about that, but dedication.
And Logan responds, "No, they got extras."
Yeah,
so obviously they must have a lot of money down in Hardin.
Oh, it's those farmers, man. Like my in-laws, when you go out to the farm, they got vehicles hiding all over the place out there.
Yeah.
So.
They're write-offs.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
They're done picking, so now the work trucks can just sit at the field.
Yep. All right, well, Mitch, I'll start with you. What are your kind of initial thoughts on these two?
Well, I was super impressed with Brown County's win over Carrollton. It sounded like they just really took advantage of causing some turnovers, getting some turnovers. They've got a really good rushing attack. This is, I think, right, this could be the first time that they go to the state championship games. I don't believe they've ever been there. So just as that game was unfolding, certainly we've been impressed with Brown County all year. We knew they were good. And then they get paired up in that second round game against CPC and come away with the impressive win. So, Trey Fullerton scored 3 times in that game last week. He's their leading back, 700 yards, 16 touchdowns. And I think that's a team that's just rolling. But now here comes Calhoun, who I think is also really, really good. Certainly is the top seed in the South. So, remind me again, did Calhoun win the regular season game in this one?
Yeah.
Obviously, I think they're undefeated, right?
21-12 in week 9.
Okay, so 4 weeks ago or 5 weeks ago, whatever it was. But again, a Brown County team that beat CPC, huge win over Carrollton. I think they're playing a lot better than they were just in week 9. So excited to see this rematch as well.
Well, Kyle, I know we've talked about not making picks on this show, saving it. And I know you'll talk about this matchup with Logan on your show, on your weekly show that comes out on Thursday. But what are some initial thoughts on this matchup here?
I agree with Mitch. I mean, Trey Fullerton's going to be a load to stop. On the other side of the ball for Calhoun, obviously they got a good mix with Jack Good and a couple other guys there. Coach Elmore's sons at quarterback as well. I just think that there's a lot of things that can happen in both facets for both of these teams. Mitch, to your point, Brown County, this would be, if they can win, would be their first time reaching the state championship. They went to back-to-back semifinals in 2010 and 2011, both times losing to Tuscola, who then went on to lose to Lena-Winslow and Dakota in consecutive years as well. Just a little nod to the NUIC again. But the funny thing is I know it at minimum 2 coaches on both of these staffs here going up against each other. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I have friends throughout the years in both communities. Obviously, the winner comes from the WIVC. It'll be the 4th time in the last 5 years, WIVC and UIC in the state championship game. It'll be the 6th time since 2014 that those 2 conferences have met up at the state finals as well. By the way, the WIVC does have the 1 title in that round in 2023 with Camp Point Central. So right now they kind of own the NUIC, as people would say. So it'll be very interesting. I think that we're setting ourselves up for a great state championship game, which is what everybody would like to see. Both teams have been tested. Calhoun's going to enter as an early favorite, but it's not by very much. Even though they did win by 9 points the first time around, I think both teams are very evenly matched. I would say right now, to Mitch's point, I think Brown County's playing at a little bit of a higher level, so we're going to have to see what Calhoun can do to limit penalties and play cleaner like they have been throughout the course of the regular season. Albeit, Brown County did just beat Carrollton like 37-13 or 14, whatever it was.
Team.
And in the regular season, Calhoun beat Carrollton 41-0. So there's not just the head-to-head comparison, but then you have that comparison as well. But with Brown County getting that win over Camp Point Central, it's definitely put some infused energy into what they can do. And I would not be surprised if Brown County goes down to Hardin and pulls out a win. But not only is it hard to play a team twice, it's hard to go to their place and play them twice. So they're going to have to match that energy. And obviously Hardin's got a lot of energy right now.
Yeah. I think, Mitch, this is a win-win game for us in terms of if Hardin Calhoun gets the win, then we're seeing Logan Swan, friend of the show, coaching in a state championship game. But on the flip side, if Brown County gets the win, there's a possibility that Friday in Normal, we get to do the Shuck on a Truck with Matt Shuckman from Muddy River Sports. So I think this is a win-win scenario for us here.
Yeah, absolutely. We might even see a Rick Little appearance if Brown County can get there as his brother as the head coach.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's fun storylines no matter who gets in, whether it be Stockton, whether it be Lena-Winslow, whether it be Calhoun or Brown County. I think the 1A championship game is shaping up to be a lot more fun than it was last year, certainly. And again, however you slice it, 2 really, really good teams that deserve to be where they're at right now.
This episode of View from the West podcast is brought to you by Simulation Sports. In addition to golf simulators and batting cages, Simulation Sports provides golf club repair, custom fittings for driver shafts, and even private lessons for golf, baseball, and softball. Whether you're looking for a fun group activity or want to fine-tune your skills and equipment, Simulation Sports has something for everyone. Visit their facility at 400 South Main Street in Monmouth, Illinois, or go to thesimulationsports.com to start playing today.
At Modern Woodmen of America, service is about more than our members. It's about our community, too. We share values that include personal financial security and helping friends and neighbors in need. We're your partner helping you protect your future, and together we're making an impact here in our local communities. I'm Nate Neighbor. Find me on the Modern Woodmen of America website.
Get to know your local Modern Woodmen representative to plan for your financial future and learn about valuable member benefits. Modern Woodmen of America. Touching lives, securing futures. Securities offered through MWA Financial Services, Inc., a wholly owned subsidiary of Modern Woodmen of America.
The View from the West Player of the Week is brought to you by Breedlove Sporting Goods, Western Illinois' premier sporting goods store for uniforms, apparel, equipment, awards, and online team stores. They offer name brands such as Adidas, Under Armour, and Nike, and are extremely responsive with any inquiries. With a primary focus on the western side of the state of Illinois, Breedlove Sporting Goods is the fastest way to outfit your team. You can check them out on Facebook or at breedlovesports.com.
Well, let's get into briefly. We'll talk a little bit about 2A, Mitch. We got, some teams of interest, but not from our area. Our teams have fallen by the wayside in 2A. You have the 5-seed Wilmington. They will be playing the 2-seed El Paso Gridley. On the south side of the bracket, number 9-seed Maroa Forsyth back in the state semifinals. They will be playing Arthur Lovington, Atwood Hammond, the 3-seed. So we'll start in that north side of the bracket. Those are the teams we're familiar with. It was Wilmington getting the convincing, dominating win over Tri-Valley, right? I don't have the score in front of me, but they won pretty comfortably there.
49-7 or something.
Yep.
49-7.
There we go. And it's El Paso Gridley getting the win over Farmington. And Mitch, we kind of joked about it on the show on Saturday that our newly found El Paso Gridley followers, They heard us give the apology or the admitting that, hey, we were wrong. We didn't know enough about El Paso Gridley, but this appears to be one of those special seasons for them. But they got a challenge this week against a really, really tough Wilmington squad. Mitch, what are your thoughts on this matchup?
Yeah, do they ever? And certainly I thought Newman would get past El Paso Gridley. That was not even close. Thought Farmington would do the same. So I was able to watch that game, and I'm just really, really impressed with El Paso Gridley's defense. Certainly they shut down, Newman shut him out, I should say. A couple of goal line stops in that one. And then in the Farmington game, as I mentioned at the top of this show, a couple of pick sixes, had a safety in there. So it's a very, very good defensive unit. Offensively, Aiden Adams is a fantastic running back. The problem is they have to play Wilmington.
Yeah.
And,
yep.
I take nothing away from El Paso Gridley. I've picked against them twice. I'm going to pick against them a third time. And that has nothing to do with them. I think Wilmington has been the favorite since the 2A bracket came out. They seemingly do nothing wrong. They are so efficient in their offense. They are so fast. And defensively, one of the best, if not the best. And I think, Kyle, you brought up a good point earlier today is you look at a common opponent in Tri-Valley, where El Paso Gridley won by, 3 or 4, and Wilmington clocked them. So, and again, you can't take a whole lot in that, but there is a common opponent in there. But the way Wilmington has been playing, I have no reason to believe that they can be stopped, truthfully. And I'm excited to watch it. Again, El Paso Gridley has been impressive to me the past couple of weeks. And if it was anybody but Wilmington, I might be favoring the Titans here. But it's Wilmington at home, right?
Yep, Wilmington's at home.
That environment, that's what line up 48 motorcycles like they just did. That place is going to be bonkers crazy. I think Wilmington's going to win big, honestly.
It was 55 last week.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's get Wilmington to win, and let's petition to get those bikes on the field at Illinois State.
With fireworks.
Yeah. We don't use the word bonkers enough on this podcast, so shout out to the
lack of lack of bonkers on this show.
All right. Well, Kyle, what are your thoughts here on these two semifinal matchups?
So, first thought, El Paso Gridley is only going to be starting one senior on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I knew they were young. We'd heard that the other night on the Instant Reacts. Yeah.
So that kind of already tells you what we can expect going into 2026. Obviously, nobody wants to talk about 2026 yet because we have this game in front of us. Man, I just got done watching some game film earlier today on Wilmington. And while Ryan Kettman is definitely the dude that gets a lot of the recognition, that offensive line for Wilmington is just unbelievable. I mean, this line, offensively and defensively, is better than their 2021 and 2023 state championship lines.
Dang. Yeah, that is a statement.
And
yeah.
I mean, we've talked about it since week 2 when the enrollment adjustments came in that if Wilmington, I mean, when we started putting Wilmington into our Class 2A polls, we said that all the way back then in the first week of September, Wilmington is the heavy favorite in Class 2A, and all they've done is clocked every opponent they've got. They took out an undefeated Seneca team by a running clock. They took out a Tri-Valley team that was talked about at the beginning of the year as being one of the teams to watch out for in Class 2A, and they just clocked them. And now they have El Paso Gridley to come into town. El Paso hasn't been in the semifinals since 2002. So this is new territory for them. Coach Tanner Benedict has done a great job of trying to rebuild this Titans team up and get them back to where they're at. Their defensive coordinator is the Hall of Famer Brian Hassett, who used to be the head coach at Prairie Central and at Streeter. There you go, Coach Lang. Got one for you. But with that, and I'm kidding. Coach Lang knows Coach Hassett. So, but with that, I was talking to Coach Hassett earlier today as well because he's been messaging me back and forth here lately. He's excited for the experience, win or lose, going to Wilmington. And I think that'll be one of the biggest messages you send these kids as they get to go up to Wilmington. Take in the environment. Don't get too high, don't get too low, but just soak everything in and then go out on the field and do what you can and play your best. Wilmington's still the heavy favorite.
Yeah, I think, looking at that bracket, for all the reasons you boys have both pointed out, I think Wilmington is the favorite in that game. I'm really excited looking at the southern half of the bracket. How much fun would a game between Wilmington and Maroa Forsyth be when you talk about some contrasted styles?
Fun for who?
I think we're headed that way.
Oh, did you catch the fun for who line there, Mitch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did see highlights of that East St. Louis and Simeon game. It did not look fun for anybody.
Sorry.
Okay. But this time, this game actually would be fun, I think, right?
Yes. I agree.
The styles are going to be such polar opposites.
Yeah, let's just assume we're going to get that matchup, which I think the chances are good that we do. Looking ahead, because that's what I do now, apparently, to what the weather's going to look like, I think it would be favorable for Maroa Forsyth to be able to run their offense as expected. Certainly, I don't believe they're as banged up as they were going into the state championship last year. So I would love to see a Maroa Forsyth team that's clicking on all cylinders with Ryan Shepard at the helm playing quarterback, because that offense against what Wilmington brings to the table, man, that's a state championship right there.
Yes, that's what I was getting at. I think would be a great matchup. That would be.
So I hope you guys are ready for El Paso Gridley and Ala.
So speaking of Ala, similar to El Paso Gridley, they're making their first semifinal appearance since 2004.
Okay.
Coach Jefferson has done a phenomenal job of turning this program around, and it's not probably, it's really, it's the weakest public school conference in the state of Illinois this year, collectively as a whole, outside of the Chicago Public League. So the fact that he's here with this team says a lot about what they did. I mean, they went into a game last week with Westville. Westville was the heavy favorites. Now you're going toe-to-toe with the perennial power in Murrow Forsyth and Coach Josh Joseph, who was just at his, 10th state championship game last year since 2006. I was looking back on it. I don't think Coach Jostis has lost a first-round game in the playoffs since 2004.
Wow, jeez. Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, that just goes to speak to the volume of success that Murrow Forsyth has had. And like Mitch stated, they were banged up in the state championship game last year. We didn't get a true testament of what they were. And the ironic thing is that Chicago Christian absolutely rolled the score from the previous year's matchup in the first round when Murrow Forsyth did the same thing to them. Yep. With that, they were banged up again here in weeks, 8 and 9, or 7 and 8, when they played Olympia and Williamsville. And then they weren't 100% going in that New Berlin game, and they had to fight back on that one. Then they get into the first round of playoffs, and they faced off with a feisty Chester team. But the last 2 weeks, they have absolutely pounded the Johnston City and Flora. And, everybody's like, oh, but these guys are the teams. And it's tough to say. The Black Diamond Conference is a fun conference to talk about, but they lack playoff success. And Johnson City was there last year, and I really felt that going into that game this year, this was going to be their opportune time to get that win over Murrow Forsyth finally. And Murrow Forsyth dumped on them like they have every single time in the past. And, I mean, it was just a runaway game. And then, of course, they mollywopped on Flora as well, which – what a great run Flora had, but I think Allah's sitting in this exact same position as Johnson City and Flora. You're getting ready to take on a beast that's finally healthy, and they're chomping at the bit. They want to be back in normal because they want to revenge that 47-0 spanking they got last year.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to the Black Diamond Conference. I used to walk the sidelines in Johnston City and Cesar Valier and Christopher Ziegler Royalton. So, I've been there.
It's fun down there. I pay attention to a lot of their stuff, especially on that Southern Illinois sports page by Chris Dexter. And, there are a lot of teams down there that are fun to watch. And I've picked up a Flora following this year that I never thought I'd pick up. Obviously, the people of Cesar Valier and Johnson City have been following me for a while. So, even Coach Townsend at Fairfield's been a longtime follower as well. So, I definitely have a soft spot for the Black Diamond Conference. I just wish that we could see them turn that into playoff success.
Yeah. Mitch, what do you got?
So, Kyle, you'd mentioned 2004.
Yeah.
So I went back. That is when they lost to Stockton. Stockton went to the state championship that year. Who is Alexis United?
That is now Monmouth United.
That's Monmouth United. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought they were 2001.
No, I think that 04 was United's first year as a consolidated school, and they won the state title.
See, I thought that was 01, and then the Alexis threw me off. So, okay. Got it.
There we go. Was that Coach Engelbretson for United?
Yep.
Winning that state title there?
Yeah, so. The Forreston alum himself.
There we go. Of course, if he's winning state titles, he has that NUIC connection in him. So, all right. Well, yeah, I think we're all in agreement that Wilmington, Murrow Forsyth, and we'll be there covering it if that one plays out. So, all right. Should we get into 3A and talk about a team from our area that continues to impress. They're grabbing headlines, I say, statewide because of the, the run they're on here. That, of course, is the Byron Tigers. They get the win 28-6 over IC Catholic. So we'll share the bracket here. As you can see, it's Byron moving into the state semifinals. They will be taking on the number 1 seed, Richmond-Burton, Saturday, 2 o'clock. Byron on the road at Richmond-Burton. Mitch, I guess let's start with, Byron, and talk me through kind of what you saw in that IC Catholic game. I listened to a little bit of it on my drive Saturday afternoon, but just a really impressive effort. Kind of not a lot flashy, right? But just really making key stops, making key third down conversions when they needed it.
Really was. I mean, they dominated time of possession, especially in the second half, and just completely stopped IC from really getting into their groove. And I know that there were some plays that IC didn't connect on that could have changed the game a little bit, or maybe stopped some momentum or given them some momentum. But that's why you play the game, and that happens throughout every game. So, this is the 7th semifinal in 8 years for Byron. They are certainly familiar with this territory, that the moment's not going to be too big for them. And kind of, I mentioned in the beginning, we talk about Caden Constantine a lot. We talk about Dawson Griddle a lot. We talk about Andrew Talber a lot. And then here comes Cole Aiken, who is another weapon that they can turn to and distribute the ball to. He had 10 carries in the quarterfinal win. Dawson Griddle had 10. I think Coach said that Constantine had 18. So if they're keying on one of them, there's 3 others that can hit you. So, yeah, super impressed with Byron's win over IC Catholic. And I think this is setting up to be a really, really good matchup with Richmond-Burton. Been impressed with them. They looked really good against Monmouth-Roseville. We can talk about that game in a second. But not to get ahead of myself, I think Byron will win. But I am intrigued to see what Byron and Richmond-Burton look like, because I think it's 2 very, very good teams with 2 really good rushing attacks and good defenses.
How about Caden Constantine's quote to Jay Taft from the Rockford newspaper after the game on Saturday? We're back, and we're not done yet. So I think this Byron team playing with a lot of confidence right now, and maybe playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, right? Because they fell just short last year in the second round. Was that against Montini?
Yep.
Where they went for 2, came up inches short, and they gambled, and they've gambled before, and they've won that gamble. That one they fell short. So I think now, fast forward to this year, I think they're playing with a chip on their shoulder to get back to that top spot and be a state champion, and they're one step away from getting to that game to play for it. I was really impressed listening to the game. Mitch, like you referenced, they really kept IC Catholic in check. IC Catholic had some opportunities they couldn't convert on, but in the early part of that second half, it was really kind of a long, slow, sustained drive, and when those third downs came up, it was Byron that was able to convert. They kept pushing downfield, and they were able to take that 2-score lead, and it felt like early in that second half, that was where that momentum flipped. And being at home, I think, was then a huge, advantage at that point, because you get that home crowd behind you, and they kind of start to sense that you've taken control of that game. I think it was huge, and I think it was kind of a classic, kind of traditional Byron effort there. So, yet on the opposite side of things, Mitch, tell us a little bit about this Richmond-Burton squad, because they went up against the Monmouth-Roseville team that a lot of ways operates very similar to this Byron program. They want to run the same type of offense. What was Richmond-Burton able to do there? What'd you see in their win over Monmouth-Roseville?
Yeah, they're just a big and fast team. I texted Coach Adelson today. I said, what's kind of the post-game scouting report on Richmond-Burton? And he said he flat out said they're really good. And I thought it was interesting, a comparison that he sent to me. He thought they were a bigger and stronger version of Rock Ridge. And that's a pretty high praise, because we know how good Rock Ridge has been, and we know how good what Rock Ridge did in their game against Monmouth-Roseville. Certainly Hunter Carley is their guy. They're all-state running back, number 6 for the Rockets. Just, he had that back-breaking type of a play where he returned to the second half kickoff deep into the territory, like the 20 or something, where Monmouth Roseville had really fought hard in the first half, and the second half starts that way, and it just it went down from there. So they've got size too. They've got a 6'6" tight end. They got a 6'4", they got a 6'6" receiver and a 6'4" tight end. So if they need to throw the ball, they've got some big targets that they can throw to. But we're really the summation of Coach Adolphson is that this is a nasty team in a good way. I don't mean it in a bad way. Just a nasty football team that is really good up front and can really control the game if they get that going.
Yeah. Well, Mitch, you already kind of alluded to it that you like Byron in this one. You have them maybe as the favorite. What is it that stands out to you? What do you like about it?
I think it's their defense. You look back at this game at IC Catholic, you go back to the Dupec game, go back to the Dixon game, right? 3 dynamic offenses that they've played this year. And I'd have to look back at the stat sheet real quick to see how many points that is, but it's not a lot, maybe 24 off the top of my head. So they've got a knack of playing really, really good defense when a team that has a very strong offense comes to play. And as we talked about, they've got 4 weapons. They've got more than 4, but they're 4 main guys that get the accolades. If you're keying on Constantine, here comes Griddle. Once you're used to that, here comes Aiken. Well, here comes Andrew Talbert. So I just think they've got too many weapons and they play too well on defense. You see Constantine getting pick sixes. You see all these guys flying to the ball. They have the Lee Win effect, right? Like, you got to prove to me that you can beat them. And I really thought IC was going to be the only team that had a chance to do that. And Byron took it to them. So Richmond-Burton's been fun to watch. They've only allowed 13 points in the postseason. Byron has that Wilmington effect about them that I just, whatever they're going to be up against, I think they're better than. So I do expect Byron to win and get back to the 3A state championship.
Yeah, I also lean Byron in this game for the lot of reasons you said. I think that IC Catholic, their resume coming out of the Chicago Catholic League is so strong. And Coach Boyer referenced it on the Instant Reacts podcast that that's one of the hard things to prep for or kind of plan because you don't know, right? Like, their schedule is so much different than what they're seeing in the rest of the 3A field. And it's a testament to the IC Catholic program and what they're able to do as a smaller school going up against some real powerhouse teams. And so to hold them to 6 is impressive. And, that Tiger defense held Nate Lang to 124 yards passing. So certainly under what he's used to. And I know they just slowed down that offense all the way around. So, I would.
There's been 3 instances this year of teams scoring double digits on Byron, and 2 of them were Dupec.
Wow, that's interesting. Look at that.
And the other was Oregon. The other was Oregon in week 9.
Yep. Another shout out.
That was opening round. Sorry.
Yep. Another shout out to the NUIC there. Well, Kyle, any thoughts on the Richmond-Burton-Byron matchup? Otherwise, we'll talk briefly about the matchup we got on the south side of things here.
Oh, yeah, no, I got thoughts. So, Richmond-Burton's definitely going to be tough. And I've already got people on my social media stating that, Richmond-Burton's not getting the respect they deserve, which I don't understand. I mean, they're sitting at like number 3 in the current state ratings, and they entered the postseason ranked number 3 in like every state ranking. So I don't know how you're getting disrespected when you're a top 3 team and you're in the Final Four. But with that said, Richmond-Burton beat Coal City.
Probably because I said they don't have a good resume.
Well,
they're probably listening to me.
So Richmond-Burton beat Coal City 24-20. Wilmington beat Coal City 44-21. Coal City lost to beat Dixon, 49-42. Byron beat Dixon 28-7. Richmond-Burton did beat Johnsburg 49-14. Dupec beat Johnsburg 18-13. Dupec lost to Byron 42-14 and 38-12.
I think those are some really telling comparisons. I hadn't added up, all those scores, but that does really tell me a lot. Yeah.
Again, I'm not.
Byron beat North Boone 61-7, and Richmond-Burton won 49-0. So that's about the same, but just another common opponent.
Good one. Yep.
I'm not going to tell my pick because I'm going to save that for Saturday's show.
Okay. All right. Fair.
I didn't know we were doing other games.
Yeah, man.
Well, I'll repeat myself, I guess.
But I definitely feel Byron is the favorite coming into this game. They're going to enter as a 9-point favorite in this game. I don't know. I think this could definitely be. It could be one of two things. It's either going to be a gut slugfest game, or Byron's going to pull away late.
Okay. All right.
Well, you had said too, Kyle, in a hypothetical situation that IC would be favored over Richmond-Burton by a score at least.
Correct. As of this week, IC Catholic would still be the favorite over Richmond-Burton. So, all
right.
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, we will save the suspense for the game day experience in Stockton when we make our picks in that show on Saturday morning. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be awesome. Let's look at the south side of the bracket. Really intriguing matchup here from the rematch in the Illini Prairie Conference, a conference we've talked a lot about being really high on the teams that the competition they play there. Tolono Unity, the number 4 seed. We playing St. Joe Ogden, the 14 seed. So I believe, let me double check, that game will be at St. Joe, 1 o'clock on Saturday. So, man, Mitch, we've kind of talked about between these two and Monticello, who made a state championship run last year, and Bloomington Central Catholic, who we're really high on this year, who was undefeated in the regular season. This Illini Prairie Conference down in that southern part of the state is really good. And they're here again.
Yeah, good representation here. This will be a fun matchup. Looking back at what they've each done the last 3 weeks, Tolono Unity won on a field goal, right, against Monticello?
I believe they had to stop a 2-point conversion, right?
Benton.
That's what it was. Okay, so they both, if you go back to St. Joe's opening round game where they beat Benton on a field goal. So they've both been down to the wire at least one time in the playoffs, but their other games have been a bit of a blowout. So this will be a fun game, a rematch from week, I don't remember, 4 or 5 or 6. That was a pretty big win for Tolono, right?
Week 4, 40-10, Tolono won.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, if they follow the same script as kind of Kyle has said, that the regular season winners do the same in the playoffs. Tolono looked really good, 42-7 over top seed Williamsville in that quarterfinal game. So yeah, I'm not going to pretend that I know much about either team, but the way that Tolono Unity looked in the quarterfinals and having won this game in the regular season, I'll lean towards to Unity in this one.
There you go. Yeah, I think based on the regular season, I think it's a lot to say that it's going to go the other way for St. Joe Ogden, but you never know. It's a conference rivalry. It's a rematch. And, Kyle, when you talk about like all-time kind of rivalries in the state of Illinois, I feel like growing up, this was Tolono versus St. Joe Ogden was teams you heard about, every year it felt like. This is I think one of the better rivalries in the state because they're teams that are always playing at a high level, programs that are always playing at a high level.
Oh, no doubt about it. You had the great Dick Duvall leading St. Joe Ogden all them years. It seemed like they were always in a state championship game. They've been in 6 of them, but man, did they make deep playoff runs all over the place, many different times. It's just crazy how good it is. And then on top of it, Tolono Unity under Scott Hamilton did the exact same thing. They've too have been to 6 state championship games. And before Scott Hamilton ended up in Tolono at Unity, he was at Calhoun on Rick Johns' staff when they won back-to-back state titles in 92 and 93. You throw in the mix that these two have always been in a conference together. They've always been facing each other for a long period of time, and collectively between the two, they've been in 12 state championship games. Just adds to that allure of what these programs are and how they perform. And, I think this is definitely going to be very, very exciting. Unity, like Mitch said, is definitely going to be the favorite. I feel that when you take a look at the second time around, Unity's already had played Monticello a second time around, and in the regular season, they pounded Monticello, and then, like you said, they had to stop a 2-point conversion in order to secure a win in the playoffs here. So, but with that said, they've also rebounded with a big win this past week. So, yes, Unity is definitely the favorite. I take a look here. Huge favorite. They're like a 4-touchdown, 3-touchdown favorite.
Wow,
3-touchdown favorite. So, can St. Joe Ogden put up the same type of contest that Monticello did? And when you take a look at those two when they played, Monticello beat St. Joe Ogden 28-21 in the regular season. And that was like 2 weeks after they got their heads beat in by Unity. But as a 14 seed, back on the playoff show, I said watch for St. Joe Ogden. They could be the team that's here. And so far, the real challenge that they had was back in round 1 against Benton on the road, and they had to kick a field goal to get there. And now they're in the semifinals going up against the easy 3A South favorite, Tolono Unity. And I say easy because I've had Tolono Unity picked as the favorite in 3A South ever since we saw Bloomington Central Catholic going to the North bracket.
Yep. So by quick math, if I counted them all up right, I think this will be the 12th playoff matchup between Tolono Unity and St. Joe Ogden. I don't know the results. I didn't look at the results from each year, but just a quick count. I believe they've played each other. This will be the 12th. So that's quite a history, going back over the years. So that should be fun. All right, so there's kind of our main, coverage area there between 8-man, 1A, 2A, 3A. Do we want to put up, the 4A bracket? Do we want to look around? Or Mitch, you got any?
It's going to be Montini and Rochester.
There you go. Okay, there you go. All right. I don't disagree with that.
5A, is this the year that Wheaton St. Francis finally gets in? They've always, been stopped by a big name. Belvedere North's been a bit of a surprise. I mean, they're the 2 seed, but probably Providence Catholic will get back to the state championship. 6A, we're headed towards NAS and East St. Louis. 7A, you've got 4 really good teams there in St. Rita, Batavia, Downers Grove North, and Brother Rice. Again, not going to pretend that I know anything about those games, but I know that those are 4 good teams, and whatever matchup we find in Normal will be good. And then 8A, most likely Mount Carmel going up against Lockport. I don't know. So there's a potential to have 8 just really, really fun matchups. It'll look a lot different, I think, than it did last year, both in terms of kind of historic team matchups, but also that there's more of a balance in competition. So I think however you slice it through all 8 classes, that there is an opportunity to have some really, really fun state championship games.
Mitch, the real question is when we're talking, 5A through 8A, I need you to tell me what helmets I need to create or what helmets I already have ready to roll from graphics we've made in previous years for our state championship graphics, for our UniView episode. I need the info here.
We've got a Batavia one. I know that.
Yep.
Got a NAS one.
We have Mount Carmel, obviously.
Got an East St. Louis one. I don't think we had St. Lawrence because I think that was 2 years ago. I don't think we
I may not have made
we
one.
might.
Yep, that's true.
Okay. That's the real question. I gotta find out who we need.
Don't worry about that.
Where to put you to work.
Kyle, what are your thoughts on these bigger schools? I know you get Batavia info all the time, so you know about that.
Yeah, Coach Piron gives me a lot of stuff. I love it. So in 5A, Providence Catholic, heavy favorite over Oak Forest. On the other side of the bracket, St. Francis is a slight favorite over Belvedere North, so that will be a good one. If Belvedere North can continue to play at the level that they had, they took down Cary Grove, which was a huge upset for Belvedere North. We haven't seen a Nick 10 team get this far since 2012 when Boylan won a state championship. So this is the first time in the semifinals for Belvedere North too. So that'll be interesting. Of course, going up against a CCL school is always tough, especially if you do get the win. You're sitting on another CCL waiting for you at state and Provi. East St. Louis, St. Lawrence. Don't worry about the St. Lawrence helmet. That one is definitely going to go by way of East St. Louis. They're like a 4-touchdown favorite in that one. Naz and Fenwick, that's going to be a great game there of CCL opponents as well. Naz is the favorite, but it's not by as much as people think. They're only a touchdown favorite over Fenwick.
Yeah, Fenwick's kind of rolled through the playoffs so far. They've put up 40 each round.
And let's not forget, Fenwick back in 2018, I think it was, Fenwick was supposed to be in the state championship game, but they fell to a call similar to what Fairfield just happened this year, where another down or a bad call was called that kept Fenwick out of the state championship game.
I do good recall. I do kind of remember
they won.
That. Yeah,
they won back in 2021.
Yeah.
Fenwick did.
I love their uniforms. Mitch, I think you've mentioned that before too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They got
the Jordan uniform.
Yeah, they got sweet unis. 7A, we've talked about before. Brother Rice going to be a huge favorite over Downers Grove North. St. Rita, Batavia. I'm telling you, watch for the Bulldogs, man. Get the Batavia stuff ready. If there's an upset coming on a CCL, it's Batavia over St. Rita.
So what I think is Downers Grove North quarterback Owen Lansu. I think it's funny that for whatever reason the Twitter algorithm over the years, I was seeing stuff from that kid like posted when he was in like 7th and 8th grade, like his highlights and his stats and everything else. So I've kind of like followed his career from afar just because it was always showing up in my timeline.
Minnesota commit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I had a kid similar that did the exact same thing. Also from Downers.
Is it Baby Gronk?
Yeah. Also from Downers Grove North, and I think he went to Northern Michigan.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean I don't think he follows our stuff, but somehow just in the high school football algorithm, we were getting fed his info. So it's fun to follow along with.
And then that's how I first came across my guy JJ McCarthy. I came across him in either his 8th grade year or freshman year of high school.
Yeah.
And
I know some students of mine that I've taught at St. Ambrose are proud Brother Rice alums. So I might be kind of pulling for Brother Rice in that one. Just I know some connections there. But I did like getting to 8A real quick. I did like, Mitch, when you put Matt Now on the spot on the instant reacts and said, how will Fremd hold up against Mount Carmel? And his answer was, next question. That was perfect. He nailed it.
So Mount Carmel is a 4-touchdown favorite over Fremd.
Okay. Yep.
Lockport Oswego. That's going to be a tight one there. I'm a Porters guy, so I'm going to definitely go with Lockport. but they're a small favorite over Oswego. That's going to be a great game there.
There you go.
They were champions before Loyola went on their run, right?
Yes. 2022.
Didn't they win in 21?
21 or 22? Yeah.
We've talked about Lockport's uniforms, right, Mitch?
Yeah, that was one of our first years. They went back to back in 02-03, but they won in 2021.
There you go.
LTHF
that same year.
There you go. Yep. All right, boys. Well, I think we've talked about it all. We've set the stage. We're ready to go. We're ready to take the sidelines and cover some semifinals and some state championship football. Mitch, are you ready? Do you have you have everything you need in the command center? What's the day in the command center like for Mitch Stormer? Give me the kind of rundown here.
It's a lot easier now that we have less games.
Well, sure. Yeah, sure.
Well, it's me fighting the NFHS network most of the time. So yeah, again, shout out to any games that are on YouTube or any schools that do their own thing, because that's super appreciated.
Yep.
So no, the games are broken up a little bit. We have some, in the 1 o'clock hour, 2 o'clock. So they're broken up a little bit. So it won't be as crazy as rounds past, but yeah, we'll be ready. We'll be covering them for sure.
Yeah. Well, you'll be in the command center. Kyle and I will be on the sidelines in Stockton, 12:30 on Saturday afternoon. We're going live from John O'Boyle Field for the NUIC game day experience to preview, obviously, Stockton, Lena-Winslow, but then we'll be previewing everything 2A, 3A, probably talking a little bit of reaction from the 8-man state championship game, I would believe, as well.
Yeah. We'll add in a little brief recap of that because we'll be fresh off of that from Friday night, rolling right into Saturday morning.
Yeah. So if you're a high school football fan, especially if you're a high school football fan on the smaller side of things, we absolutely have you covered here for the next week, 2 weeks. We're going to be, like we said, live at John O'Boyle Field on Saturday for the pregame, for the game day experience. We'll be live again for the Instant Reacts podcast Saturday night, 9:30. That will kind of get everything set for our state championship coverage. We'll break down the semifinals, how it all happens, how it, the stats and the stories, as we like to say, the names and the numbers. We'll have it all for you on the Instant Reacts podcast. And then, Mitch, then it's go time. Then we're going to be talking UniView preview of all 8 state championship games. Then get to Friday after Thanksgiving. We'll be live with Kyle before the games kick off in normal. We'll be there covering the 1A through 4A state championship games. Probably have an Instant Reacts podcast from a hotel lobby or, maybe from Pub 2. You never know. So there it all is. That's the plan. That's what we got moving forward. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of great coverage, a lot of great football. So thanks to everyone who listens. Thanks to everyone who follows along. Subscribe on YouTube. It's going to be great. We'll talk to you soon. That'll do it for this week's episode of View from the West. Thank you so much for listening. I encourage you to go out to Apple Podcasts or Podbean and subscribe so you can follow along, and downloads will come automatically every week. You can follow along on Twitter at ViewFromWestPod. You can also email me if you're interested in being a sponsor, viewfromwestpod@gmail.com. Thanks so much. We'll see you next week.